Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, on behalf of Computer Science Department, I welcome you, sir, Saurabh Bubale, sir. He is going to have, he is going to conduct sessions for Module 2, Cyber Security Module 2. Saurabh, sir, I'm making
Yes,
you
ma'am.
host. Yeah, I'm making you host, and two more students are also there as co-host. So if you have any problem like slide sharing and all, so they will help you.
Okay, sure, ma'am.
Okay.
Am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
great,
sir.
great.
Sir, you are host now.
Yes, sure. May I start, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to all the students. It's hot afternoon since within 124 years I come to know. And with this, we are going to discuss about one of the burning topic, and that is the cyber security. All the time that post-COVID specifically, we talk about the elements of the privacy, the elements of the more economic developments, how we are going to have a kind of an improvement in all the technological fields. So in all that context, we also have to talk about the startups. And in all those areas, what we need basically is the security. And that's why we have come up with the cyber security module for all the PG students specifically, who can take help of those elements and can give some kind of a contribution to the society through either through the new initiatives or through the startups as well. And so we, as a student of any field, must know at least minimum law or the legal background or the legal framework which has its control over the cyber world, and in what context we can be the victim, we can be the culprit, and in what context the law is applicable, that we also have to understand. And so that's why with this initiative we have taken up the cyber security module and the cyber security law. The module 2 specifically focuses on the legal aspects of the cyber security. Now, when we have cyber security, the first question that comes to mind is why we need the security. Okay, the basic element is that if you say, if someone asks you to give your mobile number, okay, so very few of you they probably deny to give such kind of things or information to any stranger. Most of you, they usually give or write down your mobile number in whatsoever sheet of papers that have been given by some stranger as well. Okay, and so this is how you probably get calls from the fraudulent banks asking your OTP, asking a PIN number of your credit card, debit card, and number of things, the fraudulent transactions that occurs. When you say that, I am having a machine and you can swipe the card through that machine. Okay, so you just check that, okay, that machine, whether it is going to have its connection with the account of the owner, or whether that machine is also a fraudulent machine. Okay, so all these things that you check, that is nothing but the assurance. If someone asks you to put your information on any of the social media platform, and without knowing anything, you just put your information on the social media platform, or the most importantly, you must have come across some of the news where they have talked about someone has made a status of check-in. So you do it on the Facebook. Okay, so check-in to say Marine Drive. Okay, so when you do the same, probably the people who are in vicinity are knowing you, probably, or are the friends on your Facebook. They know that you are not available for that and that period, and so probably you may be the victim of the theft, dacoity, whatever it may be. Okay, and so that's why we need to understand the positive part, no doubt about it, of all the technological read. But at the same time, we also have to think about the negative part or negative impacts of this technology. And so that's why all the time what you need is the security assurance. Now, security assurance is just not in context with any particular app or any particular mobile or software. No, everywhere, whenever there is a connection with the technology, you always need an assurance that the information that you are putting it in that particular system shall have some kind of an attribute, so shall be protected by a legal sense or shall have a contract. So you basically when you download any particular app in a mobile, in most of the cases they ask that, okay, shall we have an access to your phone numbers which are there in your phone directory, or maybe the gallery, which is where you have clicked your private photos. And so you just click yes, and you just wanted to download that particular app, and so that's why without reading anything you just click yes and you just go ahead with that. And so when you do so, it means that no, you accept the terms and conditions. So without asking you how we can use your personal information, they can use it by any way, anywhere, whatever or wherever they want to make use of it. Okay, so this is how your privacy gets violated. Okay, we say that right to privacy is also one of the right which comes under the Constitution. So Article 21, we have right to life, which also includes right to privacy to some extent. And so in most of the cases, the courts yet not have decided what is privacy basically. And so it is again a part of an, we can say it is subjected to again the situation that whether your privacy has been violated or not. And so with this aspect, we need to have two important things regarding the security assurance. The first is who needs to be assured, and the second was what type of assurance can be obtained. So in all these contexts, we need to have a security assurance. Now, when we want to have the security assurance, whatever may be any institution or maybe any startup firm, you need to have the accreditations as well. Okay, so in most of the cases, when you have the security facilities to the data that you are storing or you are utilizing, you are analyzing, you must have the accreditation for using such kind of things. Okay, and so that's why you may find these aspects whenever you put it on the Google, that in what are the different softwares that you can use, through which you can go for an accreditation. Okay, now basically when you want to have such kind of a technological interface in wherever the institutions, startups, etc., wherever you want to have that interface of the technology, you need to have some more important points you need to understand. The first is regarding the managers and the technical staff who are working together to find out the workable solutions. So basically the cost-effective solutions, the technical constraints, they're going to find it out, the operational constraints, they're going to find it out. And so accordingly, the business, they carry forward. Okay, so wherever you go for job opportunities, in whatever the business you are, in all those aspects, you need that particular force which needs to take care of all the security assurance. And so that's why design and the implementation of the assurance should be also examined on basically two important components. The first is the system audit. We usually have with an IT professionals that whether this particular system is workable or is providing the assurance or not. And secondly is the monitoring, because whenever we have an ongoing activity, that ongoing activity that takes the system, the users, the environment, and accordingly have a check and balance system, and accordingly we can have that particular restraints. Okay, now when we talk about the security assurance, at the same time we need to understand that why we need to have the security assurance. The first is to have to protect the information, and secondly to not to be a culprit in the eyes of law. Why we have to make the laws is basically to control the behavior of an individual. Okay, so when you want to control the behavior of an individual, you have to create a law, legal framework. And so that's why the concept of security laws in context with cyber or the technological regime has been enacted in various contexts. Okay, so we have various laws. Specifically, we have the Information Technology Act. So law basically consists of the rule of conduct, how we have to conduct any activity. You must have heard the professional ethics. What is professional ethics? In whatever the profession you are professing, you must have to have some kind of rules and regulations to be followed. Okay, consider you're the students of computer science, and you know it better than me because I'm the student of law and the technological law specifically, but the student of
So
technology
what is
itself.
the manager and the technical staff?
Sorry.
What is the manager and the technical staff?
Manager and technical staff for having an audit of the system, the IT system, or whatever the assurance you are giving that whatever the data you are going to collect it, you are collecting that particular data with an assurance. To whom you are going to give the assurance? To the people who are giving you the data. And so that technical staff and clerical staff you need, or managers you need to have an audit or IT facilities to work it in a proper way, in such a way where you cannot, or you must not be the culprit or the offender. You must not get punishment under any security laws, and in that perspective they have to work. So that staff you need in any institution or the business or the startups as well. And so in that way the security law has been framed out. So we say that the laws are basically to that the rule of the conduct, and so we must have it, we follow only those rules which are approved by the government. So basically that's why we have a law. And so when you do not follow any law, the consequence is the punishment. So we say there's a violation of law, the consequence is punishment. The simple thing, when you are passing by and when there's a red signal, when you jump with the red signal, then is a punishable offense. Okay, so when you stop on the zebra crossing, punishable offense. Okay, so there are certainly some rules and so the conducts that been prescribed by the law, and you must have to obey it. And so that's why we need to understand what are those security laws which provides you the security in various contexts. The first thing, that is the cyber law or Information Technology Act of 2010 of 2000, and we have various amendments to that enactment. So what exactly is this? Basically, is this the Information Technology Act? It talks about in what context you can go to the police station, in what context you can say that this is a cyber crime that happened, or you can say that there is a breach of contract. So for example, consider that you have come up with any contract. Say you buy products from Amazon, you buy products from Flipkart, most of the online shopping that you do, and consider that if you have been when you accept the tick, or when you click on it, when you accept the when you put an accept button, click on accept button, at the same time you becomes the party to the contract. Now what do you mean by basically contract? Now contract is certainly some agreement between the parties. Okay, now consider that suppose for example Trusha is there. Okay, so there is a contract between, suppose if the Trusha is buying any particular product from Myntra.com, and so when she clicks on the button, okay, the button that okay, I agree the terms and conditions, and so now the contract is workable. So the contract happened automatically when she clicks the button. So Trusha becomes a party to the contract. So whichever party may be at default, they are going to pay the compensation or damages if the other party is at default. Suppose, for example, something happened on the part of the Myntra, then Trusha very much asks for compensation or damages from that company. Or for example, if something that happened on the part of Trusha, then probably Myntra can file a case against Trusha saying that you are the party to the contract and you haven't fulfilled the conditions which you have clicked yes. And so that's why it is very important to know the terms and conditions whichever are there when before clicking that particular button of I accept. Now, in law, there are certainly some elements. So, for example, there are certainly some elements like of civil nature and which are of criminal nature. Okay, so that's why we say criminal law or civil law. Now, what is civil law? Is that law which is connected to the civil wrong. So, for example, if there is a breach of contract, okay, if you ask someone to deliver something and he or she fails, and you had a written contract signed by both of the parties. So in this case, it is a civil wrong. Why? Why it is civil wrong? Because the consequences is not the punishment. But when it is a crime, the consequence is the punishment. So consider that you have made a post on Facebook defaming any particular individual. Okay, so consider that there's Rutvik. So for example, if any particular person makes a post saying the bad words about Rutvik on the Facebook, then Rutvik must have certainly some rights. And so that's why this is a wrong, not against Rutvik only, but this is a wrong against the whole society. And so that's why we consider it as a crime. And so accordingly, we say it as a cyber crime because technology is involved. So whenever in the crime, technology is involved, we say it is a cyber crime. So defamation is one of the part. You must know that in somewhere in 2006 or 8, in one of the nations, a boy of 14 years, 14 years, he hacked the system of the reservoir. The dam was there, water dam was there, and the whole system was hacked by that particular boy, 14 years boy. Now, when he hacked that particular system, he asked a lot of money from the government, and he said that unless you pay me the money, I'm not going to give control back to the authorities. And so this is how whatever can be happened, whatever this is through the cyber or this is through the technology. So this is through the technology. I mean, anything can happen. Any disaster can happen. And so that's why this is not a crime against the government or crime against an individual. Crime is always against the state. Crime is always against the society. Okay. And so that's why the state is having the responsibility to curb that crime. And so that's why we have the police stations, the police officers. Whenever we have a cyber complaint, you can very much register. We're going to discuss it in due course of time. But whenever there's a cyber complaint, you can very much make a complaint where the technology is evolved in this. Okay. So cyber law, civil and the criminal. Apart from the cyber laws, we have the e-commerce, IPR, and data protection. Okay, e-commerce is basically the thing which you buy, like OLX. Okay, so you are the seller as well as you are buyer. When it's a Myntra or Amazon or Flipkart, you are the buyer. One at the other hand maybe the seller. Okay, because you can see that whenever you order from the Amazon, those who have seen it in detail while ordering anything from the Amazon, you will see that there are different distributors of the same product. Okay, and you can always see there is a star which is given to the distributors as well. Okay, because certainly, I mean, I have come across one of the incidents that I have ordered a book from an Oxford Press, and a dummy copy of that, the Xerox copy, the photocopy of that original book that I received. And so I found the distributor, but when I found the distributor was no more in existence, or probably have withdrawn his company or his distribution part from the Amazon. So this happens. And so that's why while purchasing the things, you also have to keep into mind that you have to very much see that who are the distributors, whether people have ranked that distributor in good way, and then accordingly you can choose the distributor. You also must know that while choosing the distributor, you can also see the changes in the final price, because the distributors who distributes good quality products or who are very much making their delivery according to the timeline which is being framed by the Amazon and the app, such kind of the distributors, they probably have a good repute in the market, and so that's why now price fluctuates. So you'll see that increase in the price when you choose such kind of distributors. So this is about the e-commerce. Again, you know that whenever we have an e-commerce, you always have a contract between you and the company. Okay. So for example, if you're buying any particular product, when you click on it, you become the part of the contract. Or for example, when you download any particular app in your mobile, no, it is said that I accept and continue. So when you click on I accept, you become the part of the contract, and accordingly the liabilities will be defined afterwards in case of the default made by either of the party. Apart from e-commerce, you have an intellectual property rights. Now, what is intellectual property rights? Now, there are three important words: intellectual property and rights. Rights is that thing where you have a claim. Okay, so I say I am having right to life. Right to life includes clean water, drinkable water. So it is also part of life. And so who is the responsible? Is the state authorities. Why? Because you have it as a fundamental right. You must have studied to some extent in your civics the fundamental rights concept. Those which are essential to a life, those we call it as a fundamental rights. So it is ultimately the responsibility of the state government to fulfill that particular right. Okay. Secondly, there are certainly something which is called as a legal right, which may not be the constitutional or which may not be the fundamental rights, but are recognized in the eyes of law. Okay. So whenever whenever you have a contract with another person, and if there is a breach of contract, you have a right against that person. Why? Because this is a legal right provided in the eyes of law. And so you can very much ask for that right, ask for the compensation. So this is how the intellectual property rights, the rights can be defined. Now coming out to the intellectual property. Now you have movable property and immovable property. Okay. So for example, you have a bike. Okay. So bike is movable property. You have a land, okay, agricultural land, it is immovable property. So all these properties, you can see, you can feel that, okay, the property is there, properties having the existence. But there are some of the properties which you are not able to touch, or which you're not able to find its existence. So that property, which is an outcome of your intellect. So for example, if you sing a song, okay, so whatever the song that you are singing, that must have a, because you have added your intellect into singing that song, so that song becomes an intellectual property. Or consider that if you have come up with any particular unique feature of any particular machine or computer program, for example, because of the student of computer science. So when you come up with any unique program, any innovative program, which is not having any prior existence, so such kind of innovation, if you are coming up, you can have a patent over that particular product. So it is because of your own intellect that particular property has been come out. Okay, so that's why we said intellectual property. It is because of the intellect the property is coming out. Okay, so we have two type of intellectual properties. One is copyright, and second is industrial properties. Okay, why industrial? Because they have that, it's having the use in the industry. So basically, when you sing a song, when you write a poem, when you write a research paper, or whatever the literature you produce out of your intellect, that thing must have a copyright. So such copyright, you get it when you produce it. Okay, so if I perform anything, at the same time, copyright is automatically generated. Okay, if I write anything, automatically the copyright on whatever I have written is generated automatically. It's just copyright. And so that's why we have a Copyright Act, which protects the literature, artistic work, etc. So you can see that if any particular song you are watching on television, okay, considers the movie Pushpa and your favorite song, in one particular song, you can find number of copyrights involved. Copyright of a composer, copyright of singer, copyright of producer, copyright of lyricist, copyright of the musicians. So you have number of things which are involved in one particular song. Are people who are performing it, performers' right. It's a part of, again, the copyright. So all these things, an artistic work, everything that happens, cinematography, everything that becomes a part of copyright. And so copyright protection is under the Copyright Act. Apart from the copyright, as I said, IPR is having second important element, that is industrial properties. What is industrial properties? That particular property which is having its industrial utilization. Okay, simple thing. When you go to the medical shop, you ask Colgate. Okay, instead of toothpaste, most of us say Colgate. Why? Because Colgate is that particular brand which has established in the market, and so we know that this is a kind of a brand name which was established, and people are having belief that this particular product is the best product so far when toothpaste are considered. Or whenever you go to any particular shop, you ask a Bisleri bottle. Okay, so when you ask for the Bisleri bottle, you must have to see that whether it is Bisleri or not. Okay, now why it is so? Because you know that whenever the product is named as a Bisleri, it means that that trust the society is having on that particular product is that in the name. So consider that if you are getting any particular other bottle which is having almost same alphabets but maybe differently arranged, okay, Bisleri or Biliseri, okay, so you can find such kind of products in the market. Okay, so this is nothing but it is violation of the trademark. Okay, so trademark is the mark which you use for having the trade in the market. Okay, so trademark is one of the industrial property. Patent is one of the industrial property. Integrated circuits, okay, so the students of the computer science, integrated circuit is also one of the is also one of the intellectual property, integrated circuits. Okay, you must know that there's a geographical indication. Strawberries of Mahabeshwar, oranges of Nagpur, then you have Kolhapuri chappal. So these are certainly some products which are attached to that particular territory, that particular geographical location. So that's why we say geographical indication. Okay, GIs, geographical indicators. So in all these contexts, there is a protection of the industrial properties. Okay, patent, trademark, even when you have any particular fragrance, okay, you have to check it out that whether that fragrance can be protected under any of the intellectual property right or not. Okay, or color combination. Okay, you can see in most of the trademarks there's a color combination. Okay, so by just analyzing or by just watching that particular color, you will definitely recognize that this particular product is of that company. Okay, or specifically
geographical indication comes under industrial properties.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, geographical indication specifically, no, it is coming up with a new approach because why it is coming up under the industrial properties is because no, we are now utilizing that particular property to have a development of that particular territorial region. So, for example, who are skilled workers are probably within that particular geographical location, or specifically when we say it's Nagpur oranges or Jalgaon bananas. So when we say Jalgaon bananas, no, that quality of the soil is of such nature that creates certainly some taste into or certainly some different taste into that particular product. And so that's why we are saying that Jalgaon bananas or the Nagpur oranges. Okay. Now, whenever we have any intellectual property, we always have its protection under either of the laws which are enacted by the government, and so we have to make it sure. Or, for example, when you listen to any tune, you will easily recognize, okay, oh, this is an Apple tune, or this is a OnePlus tune, or this is Micromax tune. Okay, so when you or Idea, Vodafone, when you see that particular cartoons, you can easily say, okay, this is the cartoon which is belonging to Vodafone. This is how the marks been created. Okay, so accordingly, now you can, you get certainly some standard in the market. Okay, and so no one, so if you are establishing your brand, the first thing that you need is to have the registration of the trademark. Okay, so once you get registered, the trademark gets registered, no one is going to use or utilize or misuse that particular name in the market. So probably that will help you to have to protect your rights in the business. Okay, now you'll be having the day after tomorrow the lecture on the intellectual property. So you are going to have a thorough understanding of all the intellectual properties while discussing it as in separate session. Now, coming down to the data protection. Okay, so what is data protection? So basically, whatever that we have started discussing from half hours back, that is, the data is important. Okay, so you must have to give data to such kind of institution, to such kind of startups or the utilities, where you have an assurance that the data is not going to be leaked out. No one is going to misuse that particular data. Okay, now let us try to understand what is this data and why we are thinking so much about the assurance of the security in context with the data. Okay, now basically what do you mean by data is any facts or statistical things collected together for a reference or an analysis. Okay, a kind of a byproduct of technology, we can say, or computerization or mobile world. So wherever you put any particular, so for example, email, if you are putting it while logging into Zoom, that is also data. If you're putting the password, that is also data. So electronic media, it acts as a warehouse for all the information. When you put anything, okay, so you want to go to, say, Kulu Manali, so you just put Kulu Manali and you can get number of things on your Google. What number of things? What you can see, how you can go, the flight tickets, the train tickets, accommodation thing. Okay, everything that you can see it on Google. Why? Because there's a huge information which was stored in the packets, and when you click, you can just get the packets from everywhere, so that you can get the good information about that particular product. And so that's why data is basically an abstract concept, rather we can say, which we can say is an information, or which we can say knowledge. Okay, so knowledge, information, or data, so all these things are interlinked with each other, and so that creates the data. Information Technology Act 2000, okay, this is one of the enactment specifically for the cyber security. They have defined to some extent what do you mean by data. Okay, so we say that data protection shall be there. No, there shall not be the data privacy shall be there. One must not have a violation of the data privacy. So every time we have the word data, okay, or data. So that data word is defined by Information Technology Act 2000. Okay, so the information is a formalized manner processed, to be processed, stored, and assessed through a computer system and network. It's called as a data. Okay, so basically everything which you put into the computer system is the data. Okay, and so the computer system or computer network also covers all medium. So it includes the printouts, the CDs, the tapes, storage devices, pen drives, hard disks, everything it includes. Okay, and so that's why we need to have the directives how one must use that particular data if you are collecting the data. Okay, now here to some extent we'll again go in detail. Data is a general word. Okay, we have said as an abstract word. Okay, there's a personal data. So the data or the information of any particular individual which is personal in nature. Okay, personal data. So when you give your mobile number, PAN card number, Aadhaar card number, so all these details are your personal data. When you put your blood group, when you put your diseases, when you put whether you have suffered from corona or not, whether you are vaccinated or not, whether you have taken all the doses or not, all this information pertains to one single individual. And so that's why we say it's in personal data. So basically, personal data shall mean any information relating to identified or identifiable natural person. Okay, identified or identifiable natural person. So when you put Aadhaar card number into any computer system, you can easily get connected with the system saying that, okay, Aadhaar card number is belonging to this XYZ person. Or probably most of the people, you are getting the email that someone has put your Aadhaar card number to verify that whether it is you or not. Okay. Or whenever you go to any airport, you can see that in most of the airports, they usually take the different the space structure. They usually take a different kind of information which is connected to your retina, your eyes, and the other structure as well. So you get it get it done at an airport. Okay, basically biometric data gets stored into the system whenever you have such kind of the system working on the airports. Even your fingerprints, your face structure, so all that biometric data is again we can say may leaked or may have negative consequences if it has been misused by any industry, any business, or any startup, etc. Okay, and so that's why you must have a protection of your personal data as well. So personal data may include an identification number. So you have an address, you have credit numbers, your credit card numbers, bank statements, etc. Or probably you may have an other kind of the data which is like physical data, psychological data, mental data, economic data, cultural data, the social identity data. Okay, so all these things are included into the personal data, which are very much we can say essential to get it protected under the laws or under any of the system that in any of the system in which you are putting that particular data. Healthcare records. Okay, so if you are if you've been admitted in any hospital and the data which is the healthcare data of your body is also one of the personal data. If there's a criminal investigation is going on, then in criminal investigation you must know that the fingerprints been taken, the DNA test been happened. Even you can take different body fluids to check what is happening with the victim probably. Financial data, basically the financial institutions. Okay, so for example, if I've taken any particular loan, personal loan, bank loan, the home loan, etc. Okay, you probably if you see that there's the low balance, if you see in any of the account, then you probably get the calls from the various banks or the financial institutions asking that whether there is a requirement of the loan, a personal loan or not. Okay, so again, this is a financial data. Biological data, basically the genetic material, is also the personal data of an individual. Residence, geographical location, ethnicity, so all that becomes the part and parcel of personal data. Okay, now there is the concept of big data as well. Okay, so you must know that big data concept as a student of computer science. Apart from that, we have to understand it from a legal perspective. Okay, so basically how you take that particular data and turn into an action, on that the big data depends. Okay, so to have a better business, you can utilize such kind of the big data as well. Okay, LinkedIn is one of the important app, you can say, or the media platform which is using that data technology and to recommend more than 1,000 billion personalized recommendations per week. Okay, so this is so far reported. in various journals. So this is how they use that particular big data analysis. Okay, so those who are having the LinkedIn profiles, you will find it out that as per your requirements, education, experience, you can find as a recommendation of the jobs. Okay, so this is how it works. So analysis of the whole data, whole big data, accordingly you can get the no, it is how it works. Okay, now what does if the big data offer the companies? Okay, so basically consider that any particular data, if it is been asked by any particular company, if you're providing that particular data, you will see that there are different kind of the patterns that they are going to match, the profiles or psychological things they are going to analyze on that particular data. So accordingly, the advertisement strategies been developed for the customers. Okay, so all these things that happen when you put any particular data. Okay, I'll just explain it to the illustration. Okay, so for example, consider that there is there is ABC Mall. Okay, and they want to establish the branches of ABC Mall. Okay, consider some mall for the groceries. Okay, consider they have established it at the Garwari College. Okay, outside the metro station. At that particular metro station, they found that people who are coming to that grocery shop, they usually have these PQR products which are higher in demand. Okay, but the people who are asking for those products at Garwari College shop are belonging to, say, FC Road. Okay, so this is how they analyze the data. So they thought that we can have one branch at FC Road so that other people who are residing or wanted to have that particular product, instead of coming to Garwari College shop, they can come to the FC Road shop. Okay, so this is how they have analyzed the data, and accordingly they have expanded the business. So this is what happens with the big data, and companies usually take that particular big data from the search engines as well. So if I ask you, that whether you are the user of the Google or Google is user of yourself, okay, whether Google is using you or you are using Google, and most of the students, they may say that we are using Google, because whatever that we want, we just put and we get the details. Okay, but it is not so. So simple, when you put like the last example that we have taken, if you want to go to Dubai, okay, so you just put, okay, Dubai Shopping Festival. So when you put it Dubai Shopping Festival, you can just see that, okay, what happens in the Dubai Shopping Festival, number of things associated with Dubai. But afterwards, whenever you start that search engine, when you open the Google, or when you open any particular Gmail ID or Yahoo or whatever the things, other things that you open, you can find at the right hand side bar or left hand side bar, there's always an advertisement saying that there's now you can book a cheaper flight to Dubai. So Pune to Dubai flights now are for 15,000. Okay, return flight you can get in 15,000. So such kind of advertisements are coming to you because only and only because you have searched that particular thing. This is how the companies are utilizing that big data and analyzing the things. Okay, so they probably come to know that this particular person want to visit Dubai, and so they want to sell their product, and so they want to bombard you with the advertisements that, okay, this is the thing, this is hotel, this is a cheaper hotel, this is the best hotel, all these things that you can see it on the screen. This is how the big data works. Okay, it happens within psychology as well. Okay, consider that I am searching on FD, fixed deposits. Okay, and there is other thing like investment. Okay, so I just want big data. The companies usually get data, economic data, and they can say that, okay, this is the person who is believing in fixed deposit rather than having an investment. So basically the risk factor he don't want to take. So this is how they come to analyze my psychology. So again, is in personal data, then the personal data of all the individuals been analyzed, and accordingly the big data when analyzed, they're utilizing that information for different purposes. Okay, so this is how the personal data is highly, we can say, volatile, or it's highly sensitive. That's why we have to have the protection of such kind of data. Okay, then we have the retail coupons, the tailored recommendations. So like for example, Make My Trip, Anita Travels, number of things you can find it out on the Google. So they can say that, okay, you want to go to Dubai, so just pay us and we'll take care of everything. So this is how they customize, or they can make the tailored, we can say, recommendation or tailored trip for you, depending upon your psychology, etc. Okay. Before going to the data privacy, I just want to give slightly an example. Okay, you just received it. Then how can we trust the world's highest security system, that is Google? There's no option because it's a search engine, and so that's why you have different kind of. Okay, so when you put in the Google, you can see that as a guest you can search it on the Google instead of making login through your Gmail. And there are certainly some options in the setting where you can very much check that, okay, there shall not be no more cookies which can be saved on the desktop or anywhere. Okay, so I'm coming down to that part as well, that how we can we have to protect ourselves from such kind of a violation of the privacy rights. Okay, so before going to the privacy, data privacy, I just want to share one thing with you. You might have come across with that news that Kim Jong is the king of North Korea, and in news I have read that he usually visits the different nations, taking his toilet with him. Okay, so basically, as a student, I always have to think that why this is happening, why he's taking his toilet with him wherever he go. So basically, as a student of biology, some of you may know that, okay, by analyzing the stool of any particular individual, you will easily find out that from which diseases is suffering, and accordingly which medicine is helpful or which medicine is dangerous to that particular human body. You can analyze and you can accordingly administer that particular medicine on that particular person. So this is how everything, though it is biological or technological, everything, it has its connection to the privacy. Okay, so with this is how you can check it afterwards. So this is passing by reference that I wanted to give it to you. Moving ahead with the data privacy. Okay, it is said that there are two important limbs of data privacy. Okay, so you must know that there's a CIS, Center for Internet and Society in Bengaluru, India. One of the important center when it comes to the cyber security and all. They have said that right to be free from an unauthorized interference with the personal data and right to be in control of personal data. Okay, so two important things when it comes to the data privacy. The first is right to be free from an unauthorized interference. So when you are collecting the data from an individual, you must make it sure that your data is secured. There shall not be any interventions or interference by any of the person into that particular data. Okay. The secondly, it is said that right to be in control of the personal data. You have to control in such a way that no other individual can hack your system or can misuse some loopholes in your system and can take the data and can misuse that particular data. Okay, so this is how the data protection and the data privacy can be secured. When you want to collect the data, okay, I'm going to talk on both the aspects, collecting the data and giving the data. Okay, so on both of the parts of the string, I'm going to talk. The first is when you collect the data. Okay, so when you collect the data, you must have to give the notice to an individual. Okay, you have to notify the purpose. What purpose is there to collect that particular data. Okay, so for example, if someone is asking you that give me your PAN card number. Okay, so you must know that what is the purpose of that PAN card number, why they are collecting the PAN card number. And then accordingly, that person who is collecting the data must have the justification, must have the purpose in what data he is collecting, and the justification why that data that he is collecting for it. Okay. The third important element. So first is the notice that you have to give. The second important is the purpose that you have to justify. The third is the consent of the party. Okay. So now when I say you click, I agree, consent of the party. Okay. So when you say I agree, when you sign, so it means that you are consenting the thing. Okay. You are consenting to whatever is said. So when you consent, you must know the consequences, which is described in the terms and conditions only. Okay. So all these things revolves around the consent part. Okay. Consent is given only to whatever is disclosed to you. Okay. Consider that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and you have consented on those 5 points. Okay. So when you are collecting the data, you have to disclose that these are the 5 points. You cannot add afterwards any other point to that particular contract, which is automatically created between you and the person who is collecting the data and the person who is giving the data to that particular another person. Okay. So consent. The fourth element is the security. Okay. Keep data secure from any potential abuses. Okay. You have to put it. That's why most of the IT companies, rather all of the IT companies, they say that they provide the laptops to the employees, okay, everywhere. Why? Because this is company laptop, and everything regarding the company shall be there in the system only. Okay. You cannot use your private laptops or private desktops, because this is information which is very sensitive. Anyone can take control of that particular information, and so that's why this information must have secured. That's why you can get, you have to provide that particular facility to them. Then you have the disclosures of the things. You have an access and accountability as well. Okay. Disclosure is basically disclosing everything. Okay. So there shall be transparency in collecting the data. Okay. So everything that you have to disclose, for what purpose, in what way that you are collecting the data, why it is essential to collect that much data, etc. Okay. Then you have an access. Access is data which is subject to allowed to have an access or correct their data. Okay. So when you put any particular profile, you must have an access to correct correct afterwards the profile. Okay. So consider that the changes that occurs in your profile, you can make those changes. So you must have an access to the information which you have given to that service provider or to that company as well. Okay. And the last one is accountability. Accountability is basically when you collect the data, you're accountable to data. Okay. So when because of you, if the information of any individual is misused on any of the platform, social media platform, it means that you are accountable. You must have justification, otherwise you have to pay the damages, compensation, or you have to get the punishment. Okay. So the police is going to put you behind the bars in the prison for the years, which are depending upon the situation, depending upon what type of cyber crime that you have made. So that's why that is accountability is also one of the important part. Okay. Now, when you talk about the cyber security, now there are various privacy statutes. Okay. Before moving to the privacy statutes, I'll just come to the point when I'll just see. Okay. Praveen has asked the question. Okay. I'll come to that particular point because I wish to refer to the cookies. Okay. Now, when you put any particular email ID or password, you can very much see at the right hand side upper corner that shall we save your password. Okay. And so if you save your password, automatically your information gets saved into that particular system. Okay. You must know that if you delete any particular file from your computer, you still can find the traces of that particular file. Okay. So this happens. So whenever there's a cyber crime, specifically obscene material is circulated on the social media, obscene pictures been created, misusing the photos which are there on the social media. Okay, so such kind of things if are happening, it means that someone has created it. Okay, so when you trace out who has created that particular thing, though he has deleted that particular file from the computer, the authorities, the IT professionals still can find the traces of that file, though it is not even in a recycle bin. Okay, so consider that you have deleted the file from the computer system and from the recycle bin as well, still you can find the traces in that particular hard disk. Okay, and so that's why you have to be very particular about utilizing the personal data or making the crime as well, because when you make any particular crime, you have to face all the consequences. So there are different kind of the cookies, like session cookies. Okay, so they are valid for only one session. Okay, so when you fill any particular form, say Google form, consider there's a Google form, and so meanwhile, if there is a loss of internet connectivity, when there is a loss of internet connectivity and again you get it connected with an internet, you'll find all those spaces which you already have filled are still there. Okay, session cookies, because they are saved on that one. So when you close it, then automatically that session cookies come to an end. So there are session cookies. There is something called as third-party cookies. So basically the ads, the cookies placed by advertisers, basically they track your browsing system or browsing history. So accordingly, they can get connected to whatever the information that you probably searching. Okay, so that's why they can sell their product to you by making such kind of an advertisements. Okay, then you must have seen the cache. Okay, or cache, C-A-C-H-E. There's also one of the important part. You better know that when you have this particular system, when you operate your computer or your internet, all these things been saved. Okay, so whatever the searches, whatever the history that is there regarding the search engine, the advertisements that you have seen, whatever the tabs that you have opened, so all these things, the information that you have probably put into any of the system, all that is restored or is stored into that particular system through the cache. Okay, and so what you can do, you can very much delete that particular cache by by going into the settings of your Google search engine, by going to the Gmail, and then you can very much find it out. Okay, so you always have to clear your history, you always have to check your settings whether someone is having its access or not. Okay, and accordingly you have to take into consideration the privacy at your own in this context. Now, as I said that yes, there is a privacy. So what is an ultimate understanding is that if there is a violation of the privacy, then what are the things that we require? Okay, is the law. So when you think or when you face any particular violation in context with the data privacy, you can very much go to the court of law. You can file a case. If it seems that it's a crime, you can very much go to the police station. If it is not available, you can very much access through internet, and you can through internet file a complaint to the cyber police as well. Okay, so that we'll discuss in detail afterwards. And so that's why what we need is that's why what we need is the cyber laws, security laws. And so various nations. So now say the system is not for in India. Okay, so wherever you go in the world, all the world is connected with each other with the internet. And so we have whichever the nation you are connecting, you have that law. So like you have in Singapore, you have in Personal Data Protection Act of Singapore. So if you are taking it with the Canada, you have the PIPEDA, that is Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act. If it is with the France, you have the law number 78, which is about the information technology and the civil liberties. If it is with the United Kingdom, you have the Data Protection Act of 1998. Okay, so in all those international platforms, you have different kind of the data protection. Okay, United States, if you consider, is more prone to having the protection of data in context with this, because they have a separate laws, like they have a Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, specifically focusing upon the protection of privacy of a child. Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act. So it is totally talking about the transaction, the credit transaction. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It is talking about the privacy, data privacy in context with the health. We have Electronic Communications Privacy Act in United States of America. Okay, so here it controls the electronic communications. Okay, now we know that phone tapping, the most utilized word in context within politics, which is happening in state of Maharashtra or in India as well. Okay, so whenever we say this is a phone tapping, it's an electronic material. Okay, so electronically you tap the phone. So it is not it is just not a phone tapping, but it's a cyber crime if it is done without the prior information, prior consent, and prior intimation. If you are doing so, so if you are not having any authority to tap the phone, it amounts to cyber crime. Okay, and again accordingly the consequences are there. Okay, so cache is a computer system which keeps the copies and most recently requested the web pages in the memory and the hard disk. Okay, so these cookies, they save all your information in the memory of a computer system. Okay, now as I asked you that Google, okay, so Google does not search through the entire internet. So instead of that, it searches through an ordered list of an internet content. So we call it as an index. Okay, so instead of going into detail of it, we can just see that it takes 0.00002 seconds to search through an index. Okay, so this is how that's why we use search engine as in Google. Okay, and so you are not Google's customers, but you are the product which Google sells to its customer. Okay, so you are not the customer of Google, but you are the product which Google sells to the customers. Okay, so Google's 97% revenue comes from advertisements. Google's 97% revenue comes from advertisement. Okay, so if you Google out the top 10 most expensive keywords in Google, you will find that there are a number of expensive keywords. Okay, so you can see attorney is one of the keyword which is too much expensive. It is probably $42. So basically 3,000 rupees it cost. Okay, so this is how you can have keywords on the Google. Whenever you make any particular startup, whenever you open your website of that particular startup, you will find it out that there are some of the websites where through keywords you can very much improve the we can say visitors of your website. Okay, when you search that best MSc or best MCS in Pune, now you will, when you Google such kind of the words on Google, you will find that there are some 2-3 we can say searches which are on the front page, the first page, and on that particular link you can see that ADV or advertisement. Okay, so such kind of words you can see it on it. Okay, on that particular we can say web page. Okay, why? Because this is how how you come across to such kind of the websites where that website needs such kind of customers. Okay, so when you click on the website, automatically that amount gets paid to Google. Okay, so meanwhile I've talked about that particular word, the attorney word. Okay, so when you put attorney word, and so if attorney Dr. Saurabh Ubai, if it is there, and if you click on attorney Dr. Saurabh Vasant Ubai, automatically from my account that 3,000 rupees will go to the account of Google. Okay, this is how it works. Okay, our basic understanding is not to go into details of this particular business, but ours is finding out that how it works and in what context we have to protect the data, specifically the personal data. Okay, There is one of the report on the mobile app, report regarding the mobile app. Okay, so they said that there was a study which was conducted on Android and App Store applications. Okay, 93% apps contains some sort of privacy issues. Okay, 86% apps, they lack basic security defenses. 75% apps, they fail to properly encrypt the data. So this is how it has been reported so far. So when it has been reported, it means that your information which has been accessed by the App Store is sensitive and are at higher risk when it comes to the violation of privacy. So Wall Street Journal report, you must know that particular famous report. They have also talked about such kind of the privacy issues which are happening with the apps and the mobile applications. Okay. Now, coming down to the privacy issues with the social networking. Okay. So Facebook, for example. Okay. So we know that Facebook has more than 700 million daily active users are there on the Facebook. Okay. So basically the dream place for the advertisements. Okay, you can see most of the advertisements on the Facebook. Because why? It is because you are spending lot of time on such kind of social platform, social media platform. And so that's why this is a kind of a dream. That's why we say that for the advertisers, so that we can have all these particular advertisements which can put on your screen, and you can very much click on that particular website. So whenever you click on the website, automatically the revenue gets generated. So this is how it is important to understand. Now, if you while using Facebook, you must have come across one particular part. Okay, so you must have seen that. Okay, Facebook is Meta now, so you can consider it Meta. But for a general understanding, I'm using Facebook. So whenever we have any particular profile or any particular, okay, so on the Facebook you can see that no, your face matches with which celebrity. Okay, so such kind of advertisements you can also see. Okay, you can just click to understand. Okay, I just want to find out which celebrity looks like me, and you just put on okay. And so generally such kind of an line that comes when you click on I agree is you give us the permission to use your name, profile picture, content, information in connection with commercial, sponsored or related content such as brand you like, served or enhanced by us. So this is what you agree. Okay, so if you try to read out in detail what you agree, you will find that you probably give consent to them to utilize all your information which is personal in nature or private in nature. Okay, this is Thomson Reuters 2012 report which says that 87% corporates in United States, they use Facebook Meta free version for marketing. Okay, and 59% corporates in United States use paid advertisements on Facebook and other social media sites, etc. Okay, this is how the Facebook, the platform that works, the Twitter handles, the LinkedIn profiles, everything that works on the basis of this big data. Okay, now even you have that particular privacy issue with the tagging. Okay, so you just tag the photos. Okay, so when you tag the photos, again you can very much change the setting of your Facebook that you are no one is allowed to tag you unless you permit him. Okay, so such kind of settings you can very much do, but tagging of the people is also violation of the law. Okay, so it is a tort law which does not protect basically the people's captured by the photograph in public, because this is not counted as an invasion of privacy. But when you are making misuse of it, So when you're misusing it, basically it attracts the punishment, it attracts the compensation damages, okay, whatever may be the reason. Okay. Now coming down to the last part for today's discussion is regarding the system. Okay, so we have in protection directives, how the data gets protected. Okay, the personal data, how we have to protect it. Okay. Okay. Now, there are 8 important principles that we have to understand. Some of the principles that we already have discussed priorly. When we have an information or data, it must be fairly and lawfully processed. When you want to process the data, it must be fairly and lawfully processed. Secondly, it must be processed for specified purposes. Okay. So if you are collecting the data saying that for this XYZ purpose you are collecting, you must have to have only that purpose and nothing apart from that. Okay, so the processed for specified purpose, whatever you have specified to another individual. Adequate, relevant, and not excessive. Okay, so adequate data, whatever that you have required, relevant data, and it must not an excessive data. Okay, so everything that you cannot ask everyone to fill, but only that much data which is essential from your purpose that you can collect. Accurate and up-to-date data. Okay, so that's why I've said that access must be given to the person. Then you have you cannot keep that particular data for a longer period of time. Okay, so not kept for longer than is necessary. So if you fulfilled any particular information or if you fulfill that particular purpose of the law, accordingly you can very much stop there. That much duration you can keep your data, and then you have to release you have to delete that particular data. Secure environment must be there. The processed in line with an individual rights. Okay, so everyone is having the right. So again, the sexuality of an individual is also in private data to some extent, and so that's why when it get leaked, then there's a huge consequences which may lead to suicidal deaths as well. So this is how we at a prima facie can see that it must not be having much more consequences, but we don't know that what happens if the data get leaked, to whatever extent it may go, and it may create any kind of a nuisance in the society as well. Then consent is the most important element that we have discussed, is to be taken into consideration. The contractual fulfillments, that's why we need to read each and every term and conditions of that particular contract, and accordingly we have to process the data, or accordingly we have to give the information to that particular system. Okay, last 5 minutes I'll just take regarding the data privacy, because tomorrow we'll be going to discuss in detail the cyber crimes only. Okay, now in data privacy, whenever it considers in an Indian situation, is right to privacy, which is now is a fundamental rights. Okay, so there's a judgment, Aadhaar card judgment, the Puttu Swami's case, which was decided by the Supreme Court, which said that right to privacy is a fundamental right which comes under both Article 19(1)(a), freedom of speech and expression, and Article 21, which is the protection of life and personal liberty. Apart from the data privacy in India, under the Constitution, we have number of other laws as well. Specifically, when we talk about Indian Contract Act, so Indian Contract Act deals with the contractual relation between individuals. Okay, so when I say e-commerce, so e-commerce is that particular relationship between you and the purchaser, the seller and the buyer. So we say seller be aware, buyer be aware. Okay, so in both of the contexts we say be aware. Okay, why? Because if anyone is not aware of the things or the consequences, he has to face an obstacle, he has to face the punishment. And so that's why Indian Contract Act basically gives you the remedies as well. For example, if consider you have asked some product on the internet, and if they haven't delivered you, okay, so it is a breach of contract. Okay, they have breached that particular contract which happened between you and another person. Okay, and so another person is liable to pay the compensation or the damages, whichever may be called by the court or by the consumer courts as well. So in all this context, you have a remedy that you can ask for the damages, you can ask for performance of the contract. And so Indian Contract Act is one of the important law regarding the data protection. You also have the privacy, which is under the law of torts. Now, tort law is that law which is basically is not written, but it is developed through various judgments given by the Supreme Court and the High Court. So that's why we call it as a law of tort. Unwritten law, but the principles now been settled by the Supreme Court and the High Court, and which is binding on all the lower courts. And so that's why in one of the case like Puttaswamy's case or Kharak Singh case, in most of the cases, whatever the Supreme Court said about right to privacy, we have accepted the thing and we have implemented it because it becomes a law of torts. Then you have an RBI guidelines. So Reserve Bank of India guidelines are there for all your transaction details. So for example, if something happens with a transaction, online transaction, you can very much have a recourse to their internet. You can register your complaint. You can very much go to the RBI website to raise your complaint as well. Okay, you can just Google it out. All these things you'll find it out in more better manner. How you can go ahead with an privacy issues if you are facing it. Okay. Then you have the last is the Information Technology Act. Okay. So in 2000, we have come up with the Information Technology Act, and regarding the data protection, we have come up with the amendment in 2008. I'm just going to read two of the sections of that act. If section 72 of the act, it says, if there's a disclosure of the information without consent and in breach of the lawful contract, then it is punishable for the imprisonment for 3 years and fine extended up to 5 lakhs. If anyone is misusing the information without the consent, or if leaking out the information without the consent of the information giver, then that person is doing a crime, and that crime is punishable with 3 years imprisonment and 5 lakh rupees as a fine. There's one more article 40, one more section 43A, which says that a body corporate shall be responsible for the damages. So if you are having a company or the partnership firm or the startup or any particular business, you as a business, you all are responsible if something happens with the data of the people from whom you are collecting that particular data. Okay. Then you have the personal information which is related to the password, health conditions, sexual orientation, medical records, biometric information, financial information, bank card, credit card, physical, psychological, mental conditions. All these, if it is a violation of the privacy in this context by any individual, he or she is liable for the punishment. Okay. So all these things that shall be remembered whenever you make or when you collect any particular data. Okay. So that's why we call it as sensitive data. So password, financial information, all these data in Indian context, we call it as a sensitive data. Okay. So we have an grievances if in context with that particular data, if it is there. So those grievances shall be resolved either through the police complaint or through the court or through the consumer courts or through the general courts or through the legal aid camps. So all the resources are available to resolve that particular dispute if it happens in relation with the data privacy and the violation of the data. You must have to report if any particular violation, if it happens, as soon as to the police station, either by going to the nearest police station or by registering that particular complaint through the internet. Okay, you can very much Google cyber police and you can very much read the details, and accordingly you can give or register your complaint into that particular register. Okay, so I won't be boring you more continuously for 2 hours. Okay, so I'll just stop here for today. To conclude today's session, we have talked about the security assurance. We have talked about what do you mean by security laws. We have referred about the e-commerce, cyber crimes, intellectual property rights, and the data protection. You will be having intellectual property rights in detail the day after tomorrow. Then we have moved to the data protection, where we have seen what do you mean by data, definition of the data given by IT Act 2000. What do you mean by personal data? What do you mean by big data? We have talked about the data privacy, what exactly is needed in the data privacy. We have talked about various international statutes where the data privacy has been discussed. We have talked about the cookies. We have talked about the Google, how you are not the consumers or the customers, but you are the products. The Google sales these products to another customer. Then the privacy issues with the mobile apps we have talked about. We have talked about the privacy issues with the social networking media. We have talked about the directives and the principles which shall be taken into consideration while collecting the data. So if you are collecting the information, certainly some laws are there you have to fulfill. While giving the data, you have to be very, you have to take precautions while giving your data, personal data, to any particular individual. You have to ask, you have to check it out that whether the security assurance, the IT audits are happening there. You have to check it out whether there is a high assurance to the data which has been protected, which has been given by you. Lastly, we have moved to the data privacy in Indian context. We have talked about the constitutional law. We have talked about the TOTS, contract, RBI guidelines, Information Technology Act 2000, and many more regulations that usually come whenever we talk about the data privacy and the data protection. Okay, so here I come to an end. Tomorrow probably we'll discuss in detail about the cyber crimes. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can just unmute yourself and can ask.
Sir,
yes.
share the notes of this in today's session.
Yes, sure. If the students have any doubt, you can just unmute, or you can just put your doubt in the chat window. Okay, I'll just be there for next few minutes before winding up. Okay, so that's it for the day from my side. See you tomorrow with cyber crimes. If you have any doubt, we can resolve tomorrow as well. Okay, thank you all the students for patient hearing. See you tomorrow. Thank you.